Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to introduce our next guest at our pre-conference podcast episode, Gordon Fairley of Depsys. Depsys is our partner at this conference for global network security and power outage management. Gordon is going to be joining us as a presenter at the conference held on 7th and 8th of April. Gordon, I'm very happy to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization, and your role in the organization.
Yeah, thank you, Georgia. And welcome and good to talk to everybody. So my name's Gordon Fairley. I'm Director of Business Development at Depsys. I've been in Depsys since 2019 and driving business development across primarily Northern Europe for the company, and into specific segments such as fault management. I have a long history in technology, engineering background as qualification, and then many years in business and sales, working for some major corporations such as IBM, and working with customers in terms of technology adoption. And so very excited to be part of the energy transition activities in the industry and with Depsys. So Depsys was founded in 2012 in Switzerland. We're headquartered in Switzerland. Our base is in Switzerland. Lead customers were here, and we've expanded since that time worldwide in terms of reach. Depsys is focused on grid edge computing and analytics, and so our device is installed at the grid edge at the secondary substation. On the LV side of the secondary substation, and basically allows us to do very sophisticated measurement, data acquisition, and grid edge analysis of data, supporting a number of important features for the energy transition and digitalization of networks at DSOs, including, as we'll talk about in more detail on this call, fault management.
I would really love for us to elaborate on the fault management a little bit more. But before that, because this kind of videos that we do, this podcast, they're mainly aimed to, let's say, raise the awareness about the conference, about the presentation itself. Can you tell us a little bit, give us a little preview of what you will be presenting at this conference, what you will be presenting on the 7th and 8th, and can you tell us a little, of course not all the presentation, but just a little bit, so who is it concerning, and basically just give us a little glance.
So I'm going to present on three very important topics regarding fault management. One is, the first one is identification and localization. Second one is fault prediction. And the third one is fault avoidance. And we'll talk about the holistic approaches you can take towards fault avoidance. So these are the three main themes. It's a fascinating industry at the moment because obviously there's so much happening with energy transition. As part of the background to why fault is really relevant today and why we're excited to be part of the conference, many countries have talked about energy demand doubling. Some have talked about it in the 2050 timeframe, but some, such as Denmark, have talked about it in the 2030 timeframe. So we see huge demand change, in part driven by EV adoption across Europe and across worldwide. And this combined with the fact that something in the region of 25 to 30% or 36% of grid assets today are over 40 years old. So the asset base is under a lot of pressure. The utilization of those assets increases with the increase in energy demand in the energy transition. And those two elements combine to put a lot of pressure onto the grid. In addition, society is very much 24/7, always-on society. Very based on digitalization, with people working remotely, and business is always connected. And so the importance of the grid resiliency is incredibly high at the moment, and therefore the focus on avoiding faults, predicting faults, and also rapidly localizing faults when they happen and resolving and the resolution of those faults is very key aspect at the moment. So that's why we're talking about those topics today.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the digitization solutions for the fault management? Because fault management is going to be your presentation, as I understand.
Yeah.
But what about the digitization solutions, the digital solutions for the fault management? Can you comment?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So, yes, I think grid digitalization in general is transforming the industry. There's huge opportunities with the more advanced technologies that are being developed and released onto the market today. The product such as Depsys GridEye provide huge capabilities in terms of gridage, computing and analytics, which is transformational because it provides the ability to do very detailed analysis at the grid edge. And for distribution networks where you have a lot of nodes on the network, that's a very significant change for the DSOs. Traditionally, looking at fault management, they've used items such as fault passage indicators, which are located on the medium voltage grid and are, at the basic level, provide just identification that a fault has occurred, perhaps fault direction, they flash a light, they're not even connected in their basic form. And then then they have connected FPIs, but that's about as sophisticated as it goes. That here we're talking about taking a quantum into technology that's actually analyzing the grid in real time at the grid edge. And we are able to monitor the MV faults from the LV side of the secondary substation transformer, which means that installation's easier. The insights that you have with related data such as power quality, etc., is very significant for understanding why the fault is occurring and just giving insights in general. So I think that the ability now of those using this single digitalization solution that is time synchronized and provides both fault localization and, for example, energy flows, power quality, gives you this insight into the state of the grid during the fault, allowing you to adjust the operation of the grid for more optimal usage and more resilient usage of existing grid assets.
And when we're speaking about that, in particular, when we're speaking about the relevance of the holistic approach, about the digital solutions that you just discussed, in the light of the outage management, why is it relevant now? Why is it more relevant now? Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah, I think it's always been relevant, but a lot of the focus has been up until now in the high voltage grid and to some extent the medium voltage grid. But as you come into looking at faults across the wider network, and especially with the energy transition, the demand on the LV network is significant now with a number of attached assets such as EV and distributed energy resources, DER, such as photovoltaic. You get a very complex energy power flow and demand on the low voltage grid. And this really opens up the need for looking in much more detail as to what's happening in the grid in real time. And you can then monitor that the energy flows in real time. You can know whether the fault is in the MV or in the LV, and you can take decisions both in terms of, as we mentioned, not importantly, localization and resolution is a very key aspect still, but opening up with the amount of data that you now have, you can understand and start to look at predictive analytics, which would give you insight into how to avoid faults, and also then looking at the holistic use of the grid to both use it most optimally and at the same time avoid, try to avoid faults as part of that.
Gordon, from what you're saying and for what the conference is done, mainly it is relevant for the distribution system operators, right?
Right.
However, as I understand, it is not limited to. So, can you give us an insight from your perspective? what the industry in general, of course the DSOs, also the industry in general, prepare for in the nearest future. For example, we have loads of topics, but I would say I would highlight here ensuring the supply resiliency, for example. So what would be your say on that?
Yeah, I think the industry is changing. We have obviously the main focus for us today is on distribution system operators, and obviously they are, you know, facing the biggest transition. They're working through digitalizing their networks, bringing on data scientists, working through to get maximum amounts of data from their network. Now, many are, you know, have a lot of data. So data is in some ways not the problem. The quantity of data is not the problem, although in fact it's quite expensive to transfer all of that data, store it in a data lake and do big data analytics on it. But it's really the insights that are super important at the moment. So we always talk to customers about exactly what they're aiming to get in terms of outcome from using the equipment. And the benefit of having a grid edge analytics solution is that we can work with our algorithms at the grid edge and provide that detailed real-time synchronized data insight, which supports the energy transition and the digitalization of the networks. I think that's really important both for the DSOs, which are our primary target, but also if you look at some other market spaces, a number of companies who are selling, for example, transformers or prepackaged substations worldwide would be looking to digitalize those assets as well. So the historical assets that were installed are required to be digitalized, and at the same time, new installations would benefit from that digitalization. And again, because of the energy transition, the focus is moving down from the MV to the LV. So while a major focus has been on the MV up until now, and we continue to focus on that with regard to localization. As the industry progresses, there will also be bigger focus on the LV network. So really a lot of fantastic work going on and a lot of opportunity to improve SAIDI and SAIFI and customer minutes lost. One of the things we didn't talk about is the overall benefit for the customer, as well as the DSOs improving customer satisfaction. Actually, the regulatory environment is also incredibly important. And if you take an example of the UK, the regulatory environment there provides an interruption incentive scheme, which is very significant. And some of the DSOs are making something in the order of 50 million British pounds per year from avoiding faults and reducing the number of faults on their network. So it's a very significant opportunity in front of the DSOs if they take advantage of advanced grid technology.
Gordon, what would be, so basically your whole message, as I understand correctly, is to pay much more attention to the fault management for the industry right now, especially to the DSOs, and including the subsidiaries which you just mentioned from the UK government. I'm sure there will be also something similar reflecting in the European Union. But can we, in order just to summarize, can we give, I don't know, go back to the implementation of digital solutions for the fault management, right? Because that's what your presentation was about. So
yes.
Can we give out some 3 to 5 recommendations on implementation of digital solutions within the fault management? Do you have some 3 to 5 punchlines, if you may?
No, indeed. So I think first up, the solution should give you the capability to see your grid holistically. It's possible today to do that, and holistically we mean being able to identify faults, being able to look at part quality, being able to look at congestion management, real-time data, grid monitoring, and all of these from a single device, so that you have information that's coordinated and synchronized. In addition, having a solution that connects in a synchronous way with other devices, monitoring devices in the grid, gives you this insight not only at a single location, but also across your entire grid, which gives you fantastic insight into the overall operation of your distribution network. So that's first up. I think the solution should be easy to install. Obviously, we're talking a lot of network points, as some of the DSOs have 20,000 secondary substations, 40,000 secondary substations. So time to install is very critical, and we focus on that with our customers, making it easy to place the monitoring device and hardware into the grid. So that would be number one. Number two, grid edge computing would be number three. The benefits of that, and using that allows you to, for example, over the air upgrade your solution over time. And again, whatever solution you put in today will need to evolve as the use cases within the grid evolves, as the DSOs start to evaluate new opportunities, whether that's to do with faults, as we talked about with fault prediction and holistic fault management, all the way through to things like energy theft or congestion management, flexibility data. Finally, any fault localization solution needs to cover both MV and LV faults. Many solutions today just target either MV or LV. In our view, that you should really be targeting a solution that provides both. And also, importantly, you need to have a solution that works in low overcurrent situations. So when you have a fault, many of the measuring devices today use overcurrent as a detection method. But if you have a compensated medium voltage network, you have very low overcurrent. So it's ideal that you would have a solution that can work in that environment and still detect the faults. And equally, as you start to have a lot of attached renewable energy resources on the grid, you also see low overcurrent scenarios, and also for high impedance fault. By nature, these are low overcurrent scenarios. So having a solution that works in that environment is super critical. And that's in terms of those four would be the key recommendations that I would put forward.
Thank you very much for those, Gordon. The rest, I hope we will have a possibility to speak with you and ask the follow-up questions at the conference, which will be held on 7th and 8th of April in Berlin. And yeah, we're looking forward for the conference. Thank you very much for being the guest, for taking the time, for giving us a little glimpse of what you will be presenting about, and we hope for a very successful conference.
Yeah, thank you, Georgia.
Thank you very much.